Hello everyone, Olga-Show with you again. Today is June 11th, 2013 and we are in San Francisco, this time at Fort Mason, and we have one of the partners at Cassandra Summit, or maybe even sponsor.
A sponsor, let's call it a sponsor.
A sponsor, okay, so one of the sponsors, Cassandra Summit with Data Stacks here, and would like to know what brought you down here to this conference.
Well, the company I work for is called Kunu,
and Dave Clark himself.
It's a British company. We were founded in 2009, and we've always been Cassandra specialists. Some of the key features in the Cassandra database were actually developed by Kunu developers and then donated to the community. But what we specialize in is real-time analytics on top of Cassandra, and frankly, so much of the Cassandra user base is here in the Bay Area that it didn't make any sense for a company like us, so focused on Cassandra, not to be here.
Right, so how big is your company?
There's 30 people right now. Yeah, we spent a lot of time, as I said, building extensions to Cassandra to make it more powerful, but in fact it made more sense for us to then donate those extensions and some of those improvements and to focus on what our customers were saying to us, which was, we need help to build these analytic applications on top of Cassandra. So we switched the focus of the company to exactly that, real-time analytics specifically, and the growth in that has been phenomenal. 12 months ago, if people were talking about big data, they pretty much meant Hadoop, they meant batch, they meant data mining, they meant machine learning. And now, so much of the conversation is about real time. It's about, I want to know now, I want to know what's happening here, yeah. And those are the drivers for our customers. People will buy Kunu technology because they want to know what's happening right now with their data. The question I often ask to customers is, if you knew what was happening yesterday at 10 o'clock with your marketing program, or with your website clicks, or with this machine data on the workloads in your server farm, would you have made different decisions than if you find out this morning when you get it in the report on your desk? And if they say, no, we'd do the same. I say, okay, you're not customer. If they say, well, yeah, can you do that? Then we say, okay, well, let me tell you about how we can do that. So it's all about, and there is increasing interest in this, all about real-time analytics.
So analytics, you provide software solutions.
Yes, it's a platform on top of the Cassandra database to make it much easier and more productive to build these kinds of applications. A lot of Cassandra developers, the biggest barrier they find in building their applications is data modeling. Data modeling with key value pair databases like Cassandra is very different from traditional data modeling for people who learnt about it in relational databases. Very different, and it's kind of tricky. And what our platform does is it abstracts that away. Rather than saying, well, I want to build my data model here and then I'll build some queries on it, we say, well, what queries do you want to build? What sort of access do you want to your data? I'll get it. From that, we infer the necessary data structures and build them for you automatically. So it makes it much more easy. You focus more on the value of the queries and what you get out of it, and less on worrying about the kind of the data modeling underneath the covers.
So with your expertise and experience being in your company, which industry prefer to use a Kunu solution?
It's not so much industry. What we find at the moment, and we're in early days, is about half of our customers are data startups. These are people, there is no bricks and mortar business. Their data is their business. For example, Halo Cabs, they're a brick company, but they're now operating in New York and Chicago, and also in Canada, and as well as various places in Europe. And what they do is they provide, it's like a dating agency for cab drivers and people who want cabs. I've got the app on my phone and I just hit the button and say, I'm here and I want a cab. And all of the cab drivers in that city who've got the app on their phone, they'll get a ping saying, he's here, do you want it? Yeah. Or rather, not all of them, but the ones that are geographically the closest to me. And they each get asked in turn, do you want this guide? And say, yes, great, yes. And as soon as one of them accepts, I get, yes, John's on his way, this is the registration plate of his cab, and he'll be with you in 2 minutes, and here's a map where you can see him driving towards you. And that app only works if you can do it in 2 or 3 seconds. Because if you don't find John, he'll have driven off down the road and he won't be the closest driver anymore. So Halo use our technology, they use the Kumu technology to monitor their service, to make sure that their service levels are being maintained, to make sure that it takes no more than a few seconds to match up drivers and passengers, to make sure that that they know the average wait time in this part of the city versus that part of the city, and where there is a lag, and so on and so forth. And that's typical of our customers, whether they are data startups like Halo, for example, or whether they are risk officers in financial organisations who are also customers, or network managers in telcos who want to manage outages or calls dropped on the network and assess the impact of that, or who else might be, healthcare providers who want to monitor live, patients and so forth. So actually, when you say it's vertical, it isn't. Most large organisations are starting to use Cassandra. Often we go into major banks and you almost always find there's a Cassandra cluster somewhere doing something. And the typical sorts of applications you build with Cassandra are often real time, because that's the nature of the beast. That's what it excels in, is its ability to absorb huge amounts of data, very high velocity.
By your opinion, why do you think banks and all other organizations started to use Cassandra more often?
What they see in it is scalability, scale out and distribution, I think is the key differentiators for Cassandra over other key value stores.
Maybe open source code?
Well that's true, but that's true of all of big data, is that the big attraction is you escape the licensing model and the high cost hardware that's been associated with traditional data management solutions from traditional vendors.
And now with your software solution, I guess it can run on any platform and on all of the devices?
Well, we only rely on Cassandra as our data store, so if you can install Cassandra, which you do on commodity devices, and you can scale that out, then the breaking the cost curve, which you get with open source big data solutions, that applies to our customers.
And I heard a lot about the UK, and I noticed that if America wants to open market somewhere in Europe, they usually go to UK and start to look around for consultants and companies to cooperate and collaborate with. Would you consider that you have great education to have a good match for American market and then share it with the European market? Because I notice a lot of American companies go to UK, sometimes Germany.
Yeah, I think that American tech companies come to the UK first when they're moving into Europe for two reasons. One is there's no language difficulty, you don't have to worry about localization and translation of your product for your first overseas market. And the second thing is, I think that the UK has quite an adventurous community of adopters. I personally believe that there are more American firms who will adopt innovative and new technologies than in the UK. But I think that in the UK it's higher than perhaps elsewhere in Europe. And so, if you're a startup, you rely on people who are pathfinders, people who are prepared to take a risk, to look for a new solution.
In terms of education, do you think you have great education in the UK and prepare new generation for innovation and entrepreneurship, or something can be done better?
Do you know, I don't know of any country in the world where maybe people would say, yes, we've got this great technology.
I'm looking for
education.
solution too, so I'm reaching out. Maybe you have it, because I know a lot of smart people coming from UK. So
I think there is, I think a lot of tech people in the most recent generations, the generations of the founders of Akunu, because I'm not a founder, you can kind of tell that I'm not one of the new generation junior techies. I've been around a long time, but I think that's maybe what's different now than my generation of tech folk is they are much more interested in building their own businesses. You know, we thought, oh yeah, we'd go and work for an IBM or an Oracle or whoever it was, and that's how we will make a career in IT. Whereas people such as Tim Morton, who founded Akunu, say, you know, I'm going to build my own business, I'm going to do my own stuff, my own ideas. And indeed, there's a little community in London, just north of the city of London, the old financial district. And it's all around a very large roundabout, which kind of doesn't mean a lot to Americans who don't use roundabouts a great deal, but you know, basically it's an intersection. And it's called Silicon Roundabout because there are hundreds of little tech companies all around there, close to the city, and it's a low-rent neighbourhood. Cities where the money is, the low-rent neighbourhoods where you don't have to spend too much of it to get your business started. And I think that is different about the UK. I think it's also true in some other European countries, but I think it's very true now in the UK that it wasn't. And that's not so much about education in terms of learning more about programming or learning more about this, that, or the other. I think it's a more cultural thing about entrepreneurship, about saying, yeah, I'm going to make my own mark rather than kind of ride on the coattails of some big technology company growing.
So we see more entrepreneurial spirit in the younger generation.
I think that's true, yeah.
Because I found out that now universities in America have PhD program as entrepreneur and innovator. I don't know if they do anything like that in the UK.
There's certain lot. It's a long time since I was in university in the UK, but yeah, it's certainly true. There's more of that spirit is imbued, if you like, from the education system, and it certainly was true when I went through it.
But if the person innovative and ready to take the lead, I guess, starts a company, that's always desirable. So 4 years in business and quite successful. How old the owner of the company or founders of the company?
Tim's in the early 30s. He went to Cambridge University, which you probably know is a very reputable technical university. Well, indeed, very reputable for everything. He did a PhD in computer science there. Other founders and the lead engineers are very well-educated guys. The head of engineering, he's a Stanford PhD. He did his first degree at Cambridge, and then he came over to California and did his PhD at
He
Stanford.
probably got some Silicon Valley influence
I think
about
perhaps he did,
startups.
yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of very big brain guys in the engineering.
Very good. So in terms of the Cassandra Summit, you are here first time sponsor, or no, you sponsored Summit before in UK?
In the UK, well for Europe, yeah, last year, but this is our first time at the US, because we recently opened the Palo Alto office, and this makes so much sense for us to be here generally, and this particular conference is great for us.
So you have an office in Palo Alto, where about in some downtown area?
Downtown, yeah.
And now I heard also from the organizers of Cassandra Summit with DataStax that they will have another coming back to Europe.
That's
in
right.
UK in October of this year.
In London.
So are you ready to meet them?
Oh yeah, we're going to be there, yeah.
Do you think it would be more people participating using Cassandra platform?
Oh yes, there'll be, yeah.
More?
We expect to be maybe 3 times bigger in London than the summit last year. And that represents 2 things. That represents just the organic growth of the Cassandra user base, which is happening quite significantly in London now. And also this big upsurge in interest in big data of all kinds. We at Kuno did a survey of big data developers in London last November, December, and we asked, about skill shortages, and we asked if they think there was a skill shortage in Hadoop. And 80% of the people who responded said yes, there was a skill shortage in Hadoop, and that's kind of like, yeah, that's exactly what you'd expect. Nobody would be surprised by that at all. But then we asked if they think there was a skill shortage in real-time analytics skills, and 60% of the respondents said yes, they thought there was a shortage in real time. And I was surprised by that, even though that's our bread and butter, that's where we're up. I was hugely encouraged by the fact that 60% of these people who are dealing with real-time analytics, they see, yes, we need to know more about that, yes, we need to be doing more about that. And I think that is, we're seeing that reflected in increased interest in Cassandra generally.
Now, when people come into UK for Cassandra Summit, do they come from all over Europe?
Yes.
European
Last year,
countries?
yeah, they did. They were from. I think it's like any conference. If you do the conference here, then I'm sure there's a lot more people from California than from elsewhere in the States.
Well, they still have international,
Yeah.
including Russians, as I'm from Russia, but I do live in California.
Oh yes, there's plenty of Brits here.
Nationalities, and I saw from India and China as well. And are they from here or other places? But
I expect we'll see a preponderance of Brit delegates at the London Cassandra Summit, but there will be plenty from Europe, yes, around Europe.
all right. And what do you think your future collaboration in the future with Cassandra Summit and Data Stacks, besides its upcoming conference in October? Actually, another summit in October.
Yeah, I think, as I say, Cassandra customers are, by their nature, building applications which are likely to depend on an ability to ingest large amounts of data very rapidly, because that's one of the things that makes Cassandra different. Not everybody's doing that. There'll be plenty of Cassandra customers who are not doing that, but there's a larger percentage of Cassandra customers who want to build these kind of real-time apps than other kinds of databases. And so for us, it's a natural place to go and find the people who are already doing that. They already have the problem that we can say to them, well, you can build that yourself, but here's a bunch of stuff that will make you more effective, more efficient, get business value for your sponsors more quickly than you have to build it all. You're going to build this stuff anyway. You may as well take ours because it's battle hardened and already there.
So, coming with mobile progress and need for mobile applications, how do you think your company and Cassandra can fit into it? I guess this would be easy transformation into mobile services, platforms.
The only example I've given you of our customers,
Yes, exactly.
and that's a mobile app. And other customers we have are in mobile gaming, where people are, and that's the big upsurge in gaming is now off consoles and off laptops onto mobile devices. I commute, I travel into London every day, and I stand on the tube train, and if there's 10 people around me, then 8 of them will have electronic devices in their hands, and some will be doing their mail and some will be reading a book, but probably the largest proportion will be playing an online game.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just a standard game, but sometimes it's a game where it's interactive. So for example, if you're an online gamer and you add a new feature to your game, which say, the classic example of a car racing game, where it's a free to play game, but if you buy a set of super go fast wheels, you're more likely to win your next race. When you buy the virtual wheels for real money, and so they will introduce a new feature where maybe it'll be an in-play purchase type feature, and they want to know, is that working? Are new players put off by this, or are existing players excited by having a new feature? Is it the players who are, the younger players or the more or older players? Is it, geographic? They want to know, like any marketeers, they want to know how their new product's going, but they don't want to wait until the end of the week
Right.
to get the
Good to
stuff.
know.
They actually are doing A/B testing. A/B testing, like they will reveal a new feature to half the players. The others won't see it, and then they'll say, okay, which ones of them reacted better? Yeah, so all right, you know, no, the people who are new and never spend any money, they quite liked it. Yeah, but the people who are always coming back and spend a lot of money with us, they were put off. They didn't play as much today as they normally do. Right, well, that feature's going, so they cut it out, and they'll make that decision intraday on real time, because your marketing programs on mobile for games or for shopping or for anything, marketing programs are now measured not in what used to be weeks, when you run a program, you get your results back and you analyse it and you see whether it was set up. It's being measured in minutes now.
Yeah, at present time, pretty
Absolutely, yeah. And why would you not? You're a marketing person. Yeah. Marketing people love data. Eat data for breakfast.
And that's why Econom's solution will be
I
helpful
think,
to analyze, have analytical input.
We're going to see it. I think there'll be a lot of uptake in marketing organisations of real-time analytics.
I also noticed when we had been other conferences, about 20% of the people still only using smartphones. So it's more and more coming to market. So it would be more and more users using smartphones, iPhones, and Android platforms as well. So from when you grew up as a child, I always wonder what drives you through all these years and what brought you into the place you have been. What did you dream about? Who did you?
When I was a kid, actually, I wanted to be a mathematician and work in a university. And then when I got to university, I got interested in computer science courses, and they just kind of seemed different. And this was in the days when computer science was almost in its infancy. You didn't have separate computer science departments, the maths departments. It was like an option in the maths degree. And I took that and I just got it. I got derailed. I thought I was going to be a mathematician, pure mathematician almost, yeah. And I got derailed into this stuff, and then I just jumped into, the first job I had was in healthcare, and we built some systems that meant that doctors could get blood tests and other tests on patients back from the ward to the labs, back from the labs onto the ward, and the results were available in 24 hours. Whereas before it had all been paper and scurrying
I'm
about.
very familiar with that. There's a scientist who had notebooks, not allowed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I thought, oh my God, this really makes a difference to people. Like sick people.
Saving lots of lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, one of my favourite stories about big data, which is actually a story from my days when I was in IBM. I'll give IBM credit for this one. Is a university in Toronto called the Toronto Hospital for Sick Kids. And I thought, firstly, that's a weird name for a hospital. Like, what kind of kids would you have a hospital for if it wasn't for sick kids? But anyway, what they do there is they wire up all the a lot of babies, premature babies, and they're all wired up, and they're watching them all the time. Simple vital signs like breathing rate and temperature and heart rate and blood pressure and those kinds of things. And they're watching them all the time. So if a baby becomes abnormal in its responses, they know much quicker than the old days of walking around with the clipboard and sticking on the end of the crib. So they can move them.
The nurse could be having a break.
Absolutely. But the interest, and with this, then the machine's doing all the munching. The nurse can do something a bit more, useful, a bit more human,
and
vital,
creative,
and which generally requires his or her skills. But the nice thing they did, well, not nice, is what they found was that even though they were watching these babies like electronic hawks, some of them still got sick because new babies, premature babies, are very vulnerable to certain kinds of blood infections, and a baby can go from very, very sick very, very quickly. And this was still, they was like, what's going, how come we're not spotting this? So what they did was because they were collecting all this data, the monitoring data, they were using it just to watch babies, but they also collected it, and then they did some deep data mining. This is not real-time analytics requirement, but it was really cool. Is they said basically, what's different in the 24, 48, 72 hours beforehand for the babies that got sick than the ones that didn't? What did we miss? And they didn't look at them by human eye, they did machine learning on it. They had the machines find it, and it found certain patterns. And then they went looking for those patterns, and they found that they could diagnose some kinds of infections up to 24 hours earlier. And that was just, that's just a big data application. That's a really cool one. So it's like all those years ago, the first application I got involved in was a kind of slightly clunkier and slower and smaller data application with conventional technologies, and that's one of the more recent ones I've been involved in. So I kind of that's I like doing stuff like that.
It's saving people's life, and you growing the seeds, future seeds, and it's I think saving the people, also helping being a scientist.
Yeah, it's nice to have technology doing
Absolutely.
good stuff, because people blame technology for doing all the bad, lots of bad things, but it does some good stuff as well.
Absolutely, because
in
without
the right
technology, we wouldn't have evolution as much as we have done and make our life easier
Sure.
in that regard. And that's why I brought a question about education, that I know Cassandra Summit actually sponsor college kids and giving them up to $10,000 prizes for their good work. And I thought that's a good innovative
I was
idea.
just watching the presentations there.
And then I'm gonna catch up with the winners of that presentation.
Yeah, you should be.
So I should know the best who get the $10,000. We're gonna check that in a moment. But then knowing people like you driving the technology forward, I appreciate and respect that. And supporting open source, of course, where innovation happened, sometimes with no money, just ideas, and going forward, driving forces, that's always needed in the world. So, and what would you wish for our listeners and viewers today?
Well, it's really funny. It's hard to answer that question, because if I look at my generation, and even people older than me, is you get this increasing resistance to technological change. It just gets harder to learn new stuff. And people almost measure by the technology. You measure people, their mental age by their ability to grasp and deal with new technologies. And if I even think of my son, who's nearly 30 now, and his generation grew up just about getting laptops when they were, when he was a teenager. And then my younger child, my daughter, she's 18, and kind of she's of a generation that thinks that mobile broadband is a basic human right. You just everything. And the interesting thing, her attitude to technology is not that, oh yeah, this is the technology level I'm at, or this is the. She expects everything she learns to be redundant next year. She's almost like everything. Oh, that's cool. I wonder what the next cool thing's going to be. Yeah, it's not like, oh, that's cool. I've achieved this level, right? And it's no. Oh, that's cool. That's great. Yeah. Well, what's over? She's always looking over the horizon, and she's not a particularly geeky person. She's not a computer science person. She wants to study classics at university. But she regards the world is a place that's constantly changing at an increasing pace. And she doesn't regard it as I've got to learn the next thing. It's great. Where's the next thing? What's the next thing going to bring me? Yeah. And that's the first. Even the difference between my older and younger child, of 10 years, is that's different. It's not about change. It's about the rate of change. It's what's next.
So, and that's what we actually talk about in that my program called Tech World, and I'm thinking to change it to technological evolution, because new generation who I support, and I support many startups and meetups, and I'm thinking that I want evolution, because I want better life, and if those kids bring that evolution, or whoever bring that evolution to us to make our life easier, happier, healthier, please do that. And if kids coming that way, yes, that's
they
good.
will.
So we bring our knowledge and experience to that, and that would be good, because then hopefully our health will be taken care of and monitored right away and taken care of all of the problems too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And who knows, we could be flying to Mars and Moon like nobody's business, because we'll have very good health, right, by that time.
Yeah.
And great, I'm so happy that you have been here, and hope to see you next year with more innovative ideas
Well,
and analytics, more companies using your platforms, and I would know how it makes my life easier too. I would like that.
well, we'll try and do that for you. Thanks very much. for the
Okay,
opportunity.
thank you very much, and and thank you for joining us today at Cassandra Summit with Data Stacks, and Akunu was with us, and Dave Clegg himself, talking all the way from UK, sponsoring the event here in the United States.